All right, let's go. Let's get it. Let's get into this. Oh, this video is about Athens, Ohio. I'm from Ohio. I went to Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. At my time there, I was told by my girlfriend that it was one of the most haunted places in the world. And I said, "What?" I had no clue. And so we watched a documentary about it being haunted, and I think we just watched a documentary about some of the most haunted places, and it's the one that brought up Athens, Ohio, and it brought up that an insane asylum that used to be there that is still there. You feel me? And it's crazy because like I had classes right there. Not classes, I had a class that we attended that was right where the insane asylum was. I know people who have broken into the insane asylum. And so I don't know. I didn't think too much about it while I was in college for real. Like people say stuff is haunted all the time. And then also, what was I about to say? Uh Something else, somebody telling me it was haunted or spooky there or something like that. I forget what I had to say, but essentially, while I was there, I was told by somebody that it was one of the most haunted places in the world. And since then, I just decided to look into it a little bit, and this is what I came up with. This right here is a video talking about Athens, Ohio, and it being one of the most haunted places in the world. Oh, the insane asylum. There was a woman who was said to have disappeared from her room, and there's the shape of her body like on the floor, and she apparently haunts the area in Athens. That was the story that they had about the insane asylum, and other stuff has happened as well, but that's like the biggest one. But yeah, so there was an insane asylum there, and a lot of people passed in that insane asylum. And we'll just get into the video, and whatever I think of, we'll talk about that when it comes up. We're gonna restart this because I forgot to start my recorder. All right. As it always. Putnam Hall. So Putnam Hall is the name of a significant hall at Ohio University. And there's a Masonic lodge in Athens. So he was using geometry, sacred math, sacred geometry is a thing as well, to plan out and map the cities. And you heard them say that the ancient burial grounds and ceremonial mounds of the other people were arranged and aligned with the stars. So that is also geometry. And so all those names he just listed, there were 5 names, are the names of the locations of graveyards in Athens, Ohio. So if you just plot the points of the graves, it makes a pentagram. And we were just told that the planner of Athens purposefully constructed the city to align in a certain way, in a certain shape, just the same as the ancient settlers, or not ancient settlers, the ancient inhabitants, ancient, not really ancient, but the inhabitants who were originally there had done similarly in constructing their sites to the stars, astrology, the cosmos, as he said. And the Pythagoreans were another secret society, a sect. They were a school of wisdom and knowledge, and they had their own practices and ties to the occult, as so Masons do. And the Pythagorean theorem, if you remember, has to do with triangles and numbers. And that is again sacred math. You feel me? So the whole city and town was inspired by that. You see the Oop. So talking about sigils, oh snap. Talking about sigils, if you're familiar with Solomon, he was considered the wisest king to ever live. And he also was said to have mastered sorcery in a certain sense. And he was able to pretty much condemn, cast out, summon demons, right? And in order to do this, he used sigils, shapes. He used a certain shape and he would draw it or make, recreate. I don't know if he drew it, you feel me? But he would use the sigil, that sign or symbol, in order to control these beings, entities, demons, whatever you want to call them. And I just think it's really interesting that the sigils are also being used in the construction of this space. And you heard what he just said. I hope you did. It was believed that these sigils could be used subconsciously. You don't even have to know. Careful. I think that's crazy. That's literally what I was equating it to was Solomon using them to summon and control beings and entities. I have not seen this far in this video. That's not what it looks like. Oh, spiritual waypoint, a portal, a gate, an opening, an access way. Oh, start it from the top one more time and just break it down more. And so right there saying that is like if you understand that people study astrology and they will use certain things in a certain alignment to channel certain things, then you understand that they were building their ceremonial mounds and burial grounds around the sun and the sky and the stars for a reason to align with certain events in time. You feel me? Then saying sacred patterns, that is geometry, which is math, which is numbers. And I just say this because there's a language called gematria, which is using numbers to come up with meanings and answers to questions about the world at large, right? And then we have people like Pythagoras, who was a mathematician, who was also a scholar and a philosopher, who has encouraged whole trains of thought, schools, fraternities, all these things, right? And it was based off of shapes and numbers because they meant something. And then even when the land changed hands, the people who took over this part of Ohio that had originally already had a tie and connection to the cosmos astrology were Freemasons who were already, I'm going to speak, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm that if they were Freemasons, that they have some understanding of this type of knowledge, which is why they would have interest in the area. And then once they begin constructing, they, I won't say followed the same pattern, but you see the people who were there previously already had burial grounds set up and they had them set up in a way that they aligned for something, right? And then they came and they set up their burial grounds, their graves, and they're aligned to make a pentagon, which we have learned in this video later on is pretty much a sigil, a symbol that is supposed to be endowed and embedded with the power to summon something or control it or siphon it. I think is interesting. And putting them today. The spiritual architecture of the land. The fact that they had set it up so certain points of the place had certain type of ceremonial grounds, had certain type of burial grounds, and the structures there were set up and shaped and aligned in a way that matched the stars in the skies. The people who were there before them had already been following a map to channel something. Geometry. So the fact that Kabbalah and Hermeticism is right next to sacred geometry lets us all know that math, shapes, signs are way more important than we put an emphasis on. Because the Kabbalah, if you go study the Kabbalah, the Cabal, you'll just be like, bro, what? Like, never seen anything about that, and you go and look up some stuff about it, you'll just be perplexed. You'll be at a loss, right? And Hermeticism, again, you'll probably be a little bit at a loss. If you could think of the word spiritual or mystical or witchy, all of that, just wrap it up in a bow real quick. You feel me? And so both of those are paired next to sacred geometry. Those 5 points he just listed are where the graveyards are today. And crazily enough, I used to live across the street from one of these graveyards. And so something I was thinking about earlier today is if you think about that shape, and then if you've ever seen the Vitruvian Man or whatever, the Vitruvian Man or human body, whatever, is the human body. My arms are straight out like this. You feel me? Inside of a pentagram, and it's just crazy. But what I was thinking about earlier today is you take a head and the arms and the legs, and you have a star. Right. But I guess we know that starfish. I don't know why that was funny. I thought about it earlier, and I just thought it was funny. I don't know. again, the fact that they were considered spiritual waypoints and they were making certain shapes with the mounds and the ceremonial burial grounds, it goes back to the idea of a sigil and the fact that a sigil is believed to be able to do stuff, summon, channel, control, manipulate. And then the fact that the people who built Athens built it with sacred geometry in mind while also being a part of Freemasonry, which ties into the occult, it just makes you question a lot of things. And the fact that Athens has been listed as the 13th most haunted place in the world just really makes you have to question, like, what is not even just Athens, because this is just one of many places in the world that has been built on one, an ancient burial ground, first off, and then two, has been built to channel sacred geometry, numbers, and math. A lot of the world has been built by people who already know of these concepts and are putting them into play and putting them into place. In the Bible, it says it will be a time of signs and symbols, right? A sigil is exactly that, a symbol. A pentagram is what? A symbol. You feel me? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into things too deeply. Don't know. But once a point over here starts to correlate with a point from over here and then a point from up there, I have to start connecting the dots myself. And when you connect the dots on the burial grounds, the graveyards of today, they make a pentagram. What are we summoning, guys? And the only reason I said we is because I lived in the town for 4 years and I lived across the street from the graveyard one of those years. And I was giving my energy, yeah, feel me, to being in the environment. So it's like, she wicked. Yeah.